hi everyone. I'm Catherine from Thunder Bay Counselling. I'm here today with Debbie and Sheila, both clinical counselors here at Thunder Bay Counselling. And we just wanted to have a conversation today around relationships and the impacts of COVID-19, because we know being at home with your partner or being separated from your partner during this time is definitely very difficult. So there's been positive impacts and there's been negative impacts. So we just wanted to have a discussion about that today. So Debbie and Sheila, what are some of the negative impacts that couples are feeling because of COVID-19?
Well, I think there's a lot of stress, Sheila, like a lot of
Oh,
added
yeah.
stress with people having to balance different roles. So whereas maybe I used to always go to work and my husband would make suppers those days, and now everything's out the window. We're both home some days, not here other days. So the routines and our usual roles have really been disrupted, and I'm finding that with couples as well.
Totally. And as far as having to work from home or outside the home, you're also homeschooling your kids and still having to run the errands of getting groceries and cooking dinners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is a lot more added stress. It's a huge transition.
And I think there's more financial stress for a lot of people. There's a loss of
Mhm.
income for those who have lost jobs, loss
Yeah.
of identity for people who aren't working, who are used to working. And all this is happening in a context where people are feeling more isolated than usual. So they're overwhelmed and isolated at the same time. So it can create more tension in the relationship or
Yeah.
conflict.
Yeah. And as well, like how do you like vent to your best friend and get the face-to-face supports when we're struggling with COVID and social distancing? So that's another balancing act altogether.
So although we know that there's negatives, are there any positive impacts that you've seen with couples because of COVID-19?
I think so. Well, I mean, there's a lot less taking the kids to activities like soccer and dance and what have you, and that kind of slows things down. So, some ways, it kind of reduces stress.
Absolutely. It reduces that stress of overloaded schedules, right? And
Mhm.
there's an associated reduction in costs with the fuel and with the paying for the
Right.
activities. So there's some financial relief for some families, even though there's more financial distress for other families. There's more time. There's not the travels or the commutes to work. So people have time to try new activities, new hobbies,
Yeah.
to kind of focus on their relationship a little bit, start some home improvement projects they've been waiting for. And some families are even talking about the relationships between the kids getting better. The siblings have each other as friends now, so they're
Oh,
developing
that's
relationships,
nice.
right?
Nice. Yeah.
So how do you see couples navigating COVID together?
Well, it's a negotiation now, isn't it? It's about negotiating space and time for yourselves with each other. It's having to redefine your roles,
Yeah.
and really negotiating that it is not so easy. For example, one night this week, I told my husband he had to go to bed now because I needed to be alone for a while,
Yeah.
and that was okay.
Balancing that time for closeness and for separation for people is going to be different for each couple. And as you say, it fluctuates with time. This week I might need more closeness. Next week I
Yeah,
might need more space, right? And knowing how to ask for that from each other. So
exactly.
communicating that need for the
Yeah,
closeness,
yeah.
communicating the need for the space, that's key, that you do that in a way that acknowledges and accepts that your partner's experience might be different than your own experience. Kind of saying, hey, I get that you might need closeness at the same time that I need space tonight. How do we do that?
How do you
Right?
negotiate that exactly?
Uh,
And only the couples can figure that out themselves, right? And it's about opening up that conversation. And
yeah.
sometimes that's really hard to do when you get stuck in a pattern where you feel like you don't know how to talk to each other.
And I think it can be really useful. There's a couple of things that you can do. One thing that we talk about with couples a lot is using I statements.
Mm,
So there's
right.
3 parts to an I statement. It starts out with I feel. I'm not talking about what you did something wrong. It's I feel, say, lonely.
Hmm.
And the next part is when X happens. So I feel lonely when you're busy all night with your new projects and hobbies you've discovered. And I need is the last part. I need you to maybe spend a half an hour with me tonight having a cup of tea. So it's
Right.
I feel when X happens and I need Y. right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Often talk to couples about asking for space should be easy as ABC. A, you assure your partner that you care about them, that you love them. B, you let them know that where you'll be, when you'll be back. And C, connect with them on return. So it's important to ask for what you need, but also to reassure them of the connection at the same time.
It's also just the reminder too, because you get so set in your routines and the things that you need. So when all of that changes, it's trying to having to figure out navigating and communicating and maybe possibly a different way that you haven't had to before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you both so much for talking about that today. I really appreciate it. And I know we're going to continue to navigate and find out new things about this, and people are going to find out new things about their partners and their relationships as well. So we're all learning.
I
A
think
new normal.
one thing we
Exactly.
should mention is that what we're talking about here is for couples that are generally healthy and okay. Some relationships where there's control or abuse happening, these strategies that we talked about are not necessarily appropriate. If that's the case, they can reach out for help. If you're in an abusive relationship, there's the National Assaulted Women's Helpline at 1-866-863-7868. There's also talk-in sessions available for couples where you can have a Zoom session Mondays through Fridays at various times. You would call 807-700-0090 for a Zoom session for a talk-in to talk to a counselor as a couple if you wanted to.
Absolutely. And I'll put those links in the comments below.
All right, thank you, Catherine.
Great.
Thank
Thank you
you.
both.